to Black Campaign School. I'm so excited that you're here, and I'm so excited about the hour that we have together. Wherever you are, if you are in your car, maybe you're at your dining room table, you have just taken your shoes off, maybe you're multitasking. Wherever you are, I appreciate you for being here. And I want this 1 hour with you because I know that whoever you are watching this, that you're like me, and you actually think that you can change the world. That's why you're here on a 7 p.m., maybe it's 4, maybe it's 6, but here on a Tuesday to talk about the future of this country that we all live in. So I welcome you. I welcome you. I can see you. I can see your comments. We have people from who are watching from blackcampaignschool.org. Hello. Shout out to the newly refreshed website. I hope that you will continue to check us out as we grow. And then there are many of you who are on YouTube, I believe. I have been waiting. Hello, Chrissy. Hello, Maggie. Hello, Jesse. Hello, Young Black Thinkers. Ooh, I love that name. Welcome, welcome, welcome. New Orleans is in the building. Welcome. Welcome to your classroom, beloveds. I am so excited to see you. Tierney, welcome. New Orleans is here. So, my name is Bird. I've worked with many of you to try to change the world. And I've honestly been hopefully devoted to this idea since I was a kid. I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. And, I really, since I was a kid, had to dream about a world that I hadn't seen yet. Um, I come from working people, and my father passed away when I was 9. He was only 42 years old. And I knew that one of the reasons that he passed was because he didn't have adequate health care, he didn't have support, and he wasn't able to take off of work. I remember the aftermath of losing really the heart of my world, the heart of our family. I remember how it felt like the system was like closing in on us. And even though I'm like 9, 10, 11 years old, I'm looking around at adults like, is everybody okay? What's going on? Why is it that someone so important could just disappear? Why is it that working people aren't expected to need a break or good health care? How is it that your father can die and you become homeless? Your car is repossessed. That money is the only way, and labor is the only way to feel protected. I knew even as a kid that something was up with that. And that change in my life truly radicalized me. It radicalized me to believe that my father's death was preventable, that someone at 40 years old doesn't have to die of cancer. And so I've taken that in every single thing that I've done is to make people's lives better, but also to represent my family. And when I was a kid, working on campaigns and joining things was such an awesome way for me to shift my perspective and to really build a career where social change was at the center. And so when I say I was hopefully addicted, oh my gosh, I have been addicted. Since I was 17, I was working on campaigns. I've had the opportunity of working in over 43 states with hundreds of people. And at each part of my career, I was looking for how to not just disrupt the system, but to transform it for the best possibilities for our families. And I've gotten to work with amazing, amazing people. I've gotten to work with powerful candidates who have changed the world. I've gotten to work in coalitions, multiracial coalitions, where we have changed the game, not just the rules of the game, but the leaders of the game, where campaigns have transformed the conditions of the places that they're in and the communities that they represent. I have seen change. And having grown up in poverty and really feeling so confused about the system, to moving through 20 years of working it, navigating it, trying to fight up against it, I can say that I've learned a lot. I don't have perfect answers. But what this space is, is an opportunity to take a peek under the hood, to talk with you all, to have the opportunity to step back for 1 hour as change makers to say, what have we been learning? What is the truth about what we're navigating? And what are some of the opportunities that we have to demonstrate hope and to really pave a path of change for the people and the places that we represent? How does that sound? You want to be a part of that? Hello there. I see y'all. Do you want to be a part of that? If you want to be a part of a school that holds the system that we're in with the world we're trying to build, give me a one in the chat. I want to see a one in the chat if you're trying to build a new world with me. Give me a one. Can I get some ones? Hello. Hello. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Hey. Yes, I see them coming through. Let's go. Let's go. I'm trying to build a new world too. So 20 years working on campaigns, attempting to change the world. And in my last season of work, I had the privilege of leading a political consulting firm called 3 Point Strategies. Our job, our mission was to serve Black movement and to elect Black people, the boldest, the baddest Black people that we could find. So many of the stories that I'm going to share with you are through that season of my work. And one of my most favorite projects that I ever worked on was called Black Campaign School. It was actually seated at the Collective PAC, who was working to elect and endorse and fuel the campaigns of Black people. Shout out to Quentin James and Stephanie Brown James, who hired me to essentially be the teacher for all of their endorsed candidates each year. So starting in 2017, we had almost 200 people on the campus of Howard University running for office, managing campaigns, serving as activists. Were any of you there? If any of you were there in 2019 or in 2017, give me a shout out. You are one of the reasons that I'm here. It was in 2017, wildly enough, almost a decade ago, 9 years ago, that I figured out that we could build a world together. That in navigating these big systems and these big worlds, what Black Campaign School did, it was to take this national political dialogue, take this broader political dialogue, and give us an opportunity to get at the center of it. That very first Black Campaign School like set my soul on fire. And I remember the dancing and the singing. People was just spontaneously breaking into song. Candidates were standing up and they were talking about their nails and their hair and what it meant to look like them and be the only person in Nebraska, in Utah. We had people driving from Wyoming and Phoenix all to be together and talk about Black political power. Over those next few years, I kept recommitting and recommitting, and we kept building this space for Black political operatives. By 2019, we had over 600 people driving and flying and traveling from all over the country to be a part of Black Campaign School. And it was in that year that I thought, and I said to myself, if I have the chance, I will make this a multidimensional school. I will create the school that I wish I always had, where we were at the center, where working people and our families and the people that we're championing were at the center. And in 2020, I had a conversation with Quentin, Stephanie, and the Collective PAC about acquiring it. I was able to do so over that year, but I will say I don't encourage you to buy a school in the middle of a pandemic, okay? What I thought was going to happen in 2020 in building Black Campaign School was completely disrupted by the global pandemic. And so much of our work was disrupted by the global pandemic. And even more importantly, so many of our families and our communities were disrupted. By the end of the pandemic, I was exhausted. I had felt like I had done some of the best work of my career. I had the privilege of being the deputy campaign manager to Stacey Abrams. I had the opportunity to co-create and build the Movement for Black Lives Electoral Justice Project. I had directed and produced the Black National Convention. I had worked with Black women mayors, dreamy work. But I also was staring out on a political climate that was rapidly, rapidly shifting. I could feel that the way that we were together was shifting. I could feel that the limitations of social media. And I also, by the end of 2020, was not just exhausted, but I really felt like attacked. So many of us over these last 10 years have put it all on the line for social change. If you are on this call, you've made some sort of sacrifice. You've gotten in the streets, you've taken time away from your families. You have made a decision to be uncomfortable, and that came at a cost. And by the end of 2020, that cost for me was that my spirit was so low. I felt pooped. I was getting death threats. On election day, I couldn't even be with my family or my friends. I had to be in a secret location because people on the right were looking for me. I felt like my entire job had changed from like the hope and change baby that I started. And once again, like other parts of my career, I had to get perspective. What did it mean that the climate changed? What did it mean that actually the job that I signed up for as a young person was actually a frontline job that had a lot of physical and emotional sacrifices? Have any of y'all been thinking about these things? Thinking about the sacrifice of social change work and leadership? I've had to take time to really get right with myself. I started talking about building Black Campaign School in 2020, 6 years ago. And in 2021, in 2022, in 2023, I had to take time to really reduce my workload and recover myself, to look around and to read and to do research. I had the privilege of going back to Georgia and serving as the deputy campaign manager again in 2022. This also added to my clarity that things were changing, that the post pandemic political climate, the post pandemic campaign strategy was shifted. And so I set out to be honest with myself about that. I set out to write new curriculum and to really think about who the people were who needed this now. And on the course of that journey, I committed myself to a project that I've been talking a lot about. It's our nonprofit called Black Camp. Over the course of that personal and professional transformation, it felt really clear that I couldn't just ask Black people to do more work. And I couldn't just stand up at Black Campaign School and say, these are all the things that we need to do. Go gather your people to take action. My exhaustion, my spiritual low was also clarity for me that the people that I want to organize, the people that I want to serve, Black people, working people, multiracial coalitions, women, people, everyone who needs more care, more service, that actually I needed to switch my pace and I needed to think about my assignment with intention. In Black Campaign School in 2017, naturally, our participants started to use the hashtag Black Camp. And they would call me their camp counselor. And so on breaks and throughout the program, they're like, yo, you are just like a camp counselor. I feel like I'm at camp, sharing stories about how it felt to be with people who they really felt like they belonged with and were learning from. And so in 2020, I had the idea to take that planted seed from all of you, truly, some of you on this in this space with me, and to really make a Black Camp David for the generals of this moment to ask big questions, and maybe even a Black Hogwarts for the wizards of this moment to be smart and strategic and to play and to have fun. And so developing Black Camp for me was about being honest about where I really felt like people have been since the pandemic, needing connection, reconnection, needing play and slowness, and then the opportunity to hear each other speak, to disagree without the stakes of having to write a plan. We've had 12 Black camps from the Alex Haley Farm in Clinton, Tennessee, to Atlanta, Georgia, Philly, Washington, D.C. We've had 1,400 Black leaders move through the doors of our Black Camp Davids. And we've had the opportunity to talk about the things that we're all talking about in these corners of our lives. Um, I feel so proud of this project. If you've been to camp, give me a little love. I need an emoji. I need something. I need, oh my gosh, hello. It's so good to see you. If you are a camper in the building, we have 2 more camps this year. If you are looking for a low and slow, but intellectually stimulating gathering, I would love for you to come to camp. In September, we are hosting Black Camp Columbus, Ohio, in my hometown. Shout out to Ohio, OH. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody from the Midwest. And then we are ending our tour in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this is going to be a West Coast space that you have never experienced before. This is for my West Coast people, my desert people, the people who know what it feels like, maybe to be in the sheer minority where you live, but to still be taking up space and paving the path for Black people. So come to camp. We got 2 more. And know that camp is always there for you as an opportunity to be your highest and most whole self while being in this movement. And Black Campaign School is for our strategy, it's for our moves, it's for our chessboard. In the nonprofit, you don't have to agree. I don't need you to agree with me. I'm never going to ask you your political affiliation. At camp, we are sitting by the campfire as people who believe in the best for Black people, and we're talking about all of our big topics. But at Black Campaign School, I want to be clear. At Black Campaign School, this classroom is to build power for Black people. This classroom is to win power for Black people. This is about the opportunity to champion everyday Black people and to say, look, we deserve better. We deserve more. We deserve a system that actually reflects who we are and what our lives need. And we have the power in order to do that. So, Black Campaign School is here. This is our very first class of a summer series. I'm going to be right here at this desk with all of you, 7 p.m. Eastern, every single Tuesday. And so I'm excited about this. I wanted to be honest with you about why some of you may not have seen me for a while. I was refilling my cup. I was getting really, really strong. I knew that I had something to offer this moment. But by the end of 2020, I was not strong enough to give it. And getting strong enough has also helped me to ground and to be even smarter about what I need, but what my family needs and about what my neighbors need. And so before we get into the data and the maps, if you hear me say anything, it is that your leadership requires just as much zeal and love and care and investment as the people that you are looking to serve. So, whether or not you are here because you are serving your family, your block, your organization, whether you are running for office, I want you to know that your efforts matter. Everything that you're doing is weaving with all of the people that we get to be connected with in this space and so many others. And you being smart You getting perspective, asking questions, sharing what lessons you're learning. That helps all of us. And you recommitting to pivoting, to being adaptable, and truly meeting people where they are. That's going to be the change that we really need. We get to lead by example every single day as leaders. And what an incredible privilege that is. So I made Black Campaign School for you to take that opportunity seriously and to keep questioning with me. Whew, that was a lot. So with that, shall we talk data? How y'all doing? Y'all doing okay? You ready for Black Campaign School? I see DC's in the building. What's up? All right, let's go. Let's go. Electoral justice for the 22nd century. I want you to keep adding your questions, keep adding your emojis, your energy in the chat. Give it all to me. I'm going to say a lot. Get your notebooks out. Now that I'm a YouTuber, I'm joking, but I actually have been waiting for a long time to say like, follow, and subscribe. Sorry. Like, follow, and subscribe. Um, And please, if you get anything out of this, share it. Share it. Bring a friend next week. We want to see you. We want you to come back to this information. We want you to add to it. Okay. So let's go. I want to talk about electoral justice. I want to change the world. Shout out to my Black campers, baby. This is dedicated to you. If you have ever come to Black Campaign School, if we have ever worked together, if you have believed in the power of Black people, if you have fought for Black communities and our friends and our neighbors, I just want you to know that this is for you. As I've been recovering myself, I have been imagining you, thinking about you, thanking you, feeling grateful for you. And so this space is for you and me. And I'll also have to dedicate Black Campaign School to my people. I'm a representative of the Bird family. And in 1922, Johnny Lee Bird was born, my grandmother. She sent me to college. And this beautiful picture of her, you will see her sitting on the couch. She's the last one on the right-hand side with her hands folded and the beautiful flower. I call this photo the matriarchy. It was taken at a time where my grandmother was organizing her community with these ladies in Jacksonville, Florida. And what they were known for was, a little bit of cancer research, a food drive here and there, but also they would utilize these meetings to plan protests. And my grandmother was actually arrested 7 years before Rosa Parks, championing Black people in her community. And I bring her into this space because 100 years ago, 100 years ago, she would not have been able to imagine where we are. And so I hold this century between us or in front of us with the possibility that I have to plant seeds of this next century. On the right is my father, Augustus Ray Byrd III. All of my work is dedicated to him, to the power of working people who make this world go round, who deserve a thriving life, who deserve to grow old and get to be with their families. And this is him in his teens working at the post office. Our people make this world go round, okay? And it is important to me that we always center their stories. I want to hear about your stories. I hope that you will share and lift up your families as we continue to get to know each other in our classroom here. The power of 100 years. So let's go. In our agenda here today, we are going to talk about the system. Now at Black Camp, we have a masterclass called Systems and Power, where we talk about 5 layered systems that make up the power of the United States. But here at Black Campaign School, and in this particular one, we're going to talk specifically about the political system. We're going to do a deep dive into what it means to navigate the political system. We're going to define electoral justice. We're going to talk about the landscape and some power building opportunities. And we're going to leave with our homework together, journal questions, and some insight. Stay with me and join us next week for Running to Win 201. So, we're going to start by talking about the broader landscape. But next week, we're going to specifically talk about folks on the ballot. I'm going to share stories, best practices. This is a 201 because I'm going to get into the nitty gritty. And whether you're running for office or not, thinking like a candidate has really helped me to understand the steps and the types of messaging and tactics that I need. So I hope you'll join me. Our third class is on the state of Black voters, and money, power, and respect is our fourth class. I want you to engage with me on social media, engage with me here. Tell me how you're feeling about this, because by the last two classes, I'm going to add in what you want to hear, the type of information that you're looking for Black Campaign School. So stay locked in with me, all right? The system, the system. Oh, the system. It actually, you know who did that? The system. I have spent years and years and years hearing about the system. And in particular, over the last decade, I have heard about how electoral politics was us working within the system. That's just the system. And I absolutely understand that. We are working within a system. From the moment you're born and receive a birth certificate, you are entered into the system. And that system not only attempts to predetermine your class, your professional attainment, your educational outcomes, the type of family that you have. But navigating that system is based on all sorts of social hierarchies. We know that. That's so true. But learning how to navigate it and getting above it has helped me to see myself and to see my opportunities to be in the collective. And so Webster's tells us that the system is a set of things working together as parts of a mechanism or an interconnecting network. So we're going to talk about the political system. We know that our political system is made up of three branches of government: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch. These were set forth by the Constitution. We know that the Bill of Rights is intended to be a social contract of how citizens should expect to be treated by their government. All of these things make this broader political system that says how we're governed and what we should expect by our government. And right now, these are incredibly strained. We see the limitations of a legislative branch that is not even approving wars. We see the limitations of a legislative branch that cannot hold the executive branch accountable. We see the limitations of a judicial branch that cannot hold accountable the executive branch because it has been fixed. We are hemmed up, and we spend a lot of time talking about that, which is fine. But what I want to do is get a chance to get above where we are, some of our immediate opportunities, so we can make some decisions about how we're going to disrupt and move the scales on our political system. Y'all still here? I see you locked in. I see you locked in. Our political system in three layers is made up of our federal government, our 50 state governments, local governments that are based on our cities, our counties, and additional localities. And we also know that the United States has occupied territories that also are operating governments, while many of them are disenfranchised and don't have voting opportunities in our government. We're going to talk about some of these. Right now, we have an upcoming election. Tuesday, November 3rd is the general election. We just got through tons and tons and tons of primaries. The two-party system is a key part of the way that the US political system operates. Although managing or only having a two-party system is not mandated in the Constitution, our cultural system and our political system really ensure that we maintain these two parties. So not only do we have state governments that uphold the two-party system by saying that other parties are not allowed to have a ballot line, we also have a social construct around the two-party system that says if you vote outside of it, that you're throwing your vote away. Now, I'm not here to necessarily tell you whether that's true or not. But at Black Campaign School, I'm always going to tell you the limitations of the system. And I'm going to tell you the truth about what I believe in terms of Black people navigating it. In 20 years of working on campaigns, traveling the country, working towards political change, I believe that the two-party system is one of the most detrimental roadblocks to Black political participation. In many states, like my own in Pennsylvania, you are literally hemmed up by the two-party process. You cannot even vote in your primary unless you choose a political party. Now, I have a D next to my name. I want Black people to thrive and to survive in this country. But I'm a progressive voter, and anywhere I can, I vote with the Working Families Party because I believe that working people should be at the center of how we serve and construct our government. And I deeply, deeply believe that millions and millions and millions of people are looking for an expanded conversation. I don't know how this will happen. I don't know how we will be able to disrupt what feels like this hemmed up political system, but I will say I see glimmers of it all over. If you're interested in talking more about this is an example of something that you could share with me, that you can DM me and say, go off. I want to talk more about the two-party system. I want to talk about how they talking about the left and the Democrats are doing this, and then the MAGA doing this, and then the blue MAGA doing that. If you're interested in that, we could totally go there because there is absolutely a thread right now through all of our political dialogue of wanting independence, of people truly wanting to feel like they can vote for people who they know are champions for the people on both sides, honestly. And so, this is our opportunity to have these dialogues. I'm going to tell you about a lot of opportunities in the red and blue binary because that's the system that we're operating within. But every time we show up and make our voices heard, we move the needle on the type of representatives that our system knows that we want. And that's what this is about, is utilizing every single lever in order to make political change. Y'all with me on that? We have 100 days. Today is the 105th day until the November election. And I've spent many, many years defending voting. I actually do not, I'm not mad about that debate. I will talk about voting any day of the week. I absolutely respect non voters. I believe that many, many, many non voters are making a choice, and I respect their choices. I really do. And I'm the daughter of a voting lady, of a poll worker who worked at the same polling location for over 30 years. She used to do my hair as she was logging in voters. I saw that even though we were poor, that even though it felt that we didn't have a voice in many different ways, that people saw her as powerful. I know the way I feel when I walk into the election booth. I literally feel powerful. I'm like, come on, I'm ready to make my voice heard. Like, let's go. I want my sticker. I want to leave the election site. I want to get my ice cream. Okay. It's a day for me to believe in something. And I have felt honored, honestly. I mean, I'm going to be corny. I'm going to be myself. Permission to be myself. I love voting. I like it. It feels good to me. And in a society where so many of the things that we do where we believe in something are seen as corny or silly, I actually think voting for me is an opportunity to just put my name down for my own future, just to say that I did what I could. I charge all of you who showed up here tonight, who are in this space, to think about your own motivation here. And how are we going to get millions of people who do not believe that we can make a difference, who have seen the limitations? How are we going to get millions of people to show up on November 3rd? That's our job. So we're going to talk more about that. And we still have primaries to go. Throughout the rest of this summer, about 7 more weeks of primaries. If you live in any of these states, you have an opportunity to still make your voice heard. And several of these are also deciding states in the candidates who will go on to run for US Senate and US House in seats that have an opportunity to flip those chambers. So today, Arizona had its primary. I had the opportunity to be there last week and meet some of the candidates on the ballot. Good luck. Good luck to the people power candidates. I hope that the voters make and feel that their voices are heard today. August 4th, we got Michigan, Virginia, Washington State, Kansas, Missouri. August 11th, Wisconsin, Connecticut, Minnesota, Vermont. August 18th, Alaska, Florida, Wyoming. September 8th, New Hampshire. So there is still more votes to go. Millions of people are voting. This summer and fall is about transitioning to a message that moves people to action. Come on, Tierney. Tierney, we got voters on the call. And it's also worth flagging that in a state like Georgia, they use a majority vote runoff, which means even in after the November elections, if the candidates on the ballot don't get more than 50%, they're going to head into a December runoff. If I learned anything in the last 20 years, it is how different each state truly is, each region truly is. We got folks in here from Mississippi, Arizona, New York, all over the place. You are living in a totally different perspective than the people who are trying to create social change. And it's so important as operatives that we think about that as we're making comments and making assumptions and judgments about the tactics of people elsewhere. What is it that those people need? And how are we ensuring that we're moving towards that? Electoral justice. Electoral justice is the opportunity for us to create long term transformation by utilizing elections as both a lever and an ability to measure our progress. I've always loved campaigning. I was incredibly addicted to it when I was doing it because the energy of inviting people into their government, into democracy, that was always very exhilarating to me. But also because it is incredibly honest, at least on the organizer side, it is incredibly honest organizing. You either win or you don't. You either turn out the people that you say you're going to turn out or you don't. Now, what I've learned is that the system will absolutely disrupt good organizing. The system can absolutely be a roadblock to voters making their voices heard. So it's not always as simple as did you do what you needed to do to win? But it is one form of organizing that truly allows you to measure your results, to measure your script, to measure your action. And so electoral justice is an opportunity for us to say, yeah, we're utilizing elections. No, we do not think that that is going to be the end of our fight for transformation, but it will help us to track our progress. So, defined, electoral justice is the utilization of the electoral system to achieve long term social and civic transformation. I still remember in 2017 writing the term electoral justice on a Google Doc before meeting with two powerhouse leaders, Rakia Lumumba and Kayla Reid. We co created the Electoral Justice Project in the Movement for Black Lives in 2017, and it was an intentional intervention. It was about taking all of the power of the uprisings in 2015, 2016, and 2017 and taking that energy from the streets and this not newfound but this rising consciousness around racial justice and saying, actually, elections are a part of this too. Elections have the opportunity to reduce and repair harm. It has the opportunity to assess and organize our communities. It has the opportunity to leverage the electoral economy. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars are spent on elections every single year. How are we utilizing those resources to build power and resource and support for our people? It allows us to track and achieve transformative outcomes. Electoral justice says we want more. We want more power for our people. So we're going to vote more. We're going to create more change. We want better policy. We want better. And so electoral justice gives us the opportunity. Period. Nat, what's up? You down with EJP? Welcome, EJP. Shout out to y'all. This is absolutely dedicated to all of the people who are still fighting for electoral justice every single day. And every day, someone is like, why are you doing this? What does this mean? Well, because we believe in the power of the people. And an election provides you with that opportunity. 10 years ago, in 2016, right around the time that this framework was being developed by radical Black activists like me, like you, like so many of us, many of us were making really important strategic decisions. This is a moment that I want you to think about yourself in 2016, 2017, 10 years ago. What were you up to? What were you thinking about? How are your political beliefs changing? How are you being called into the moment? How are you making really big and bold, brave decisions? I started my firm, 3 Point Strategies. Shout out to Jen Stowe, who may be watching, and Zoe. Jen leads the National Domestic Workers Alliance and spent the last 10 years building on her leadership. We had the Movement for Black Lives releasing the vision for Black lives and building infrastructure for radical ideas and Black liberation. We had groups like the Women Donors Network, building out the Reflective Democracy Project and building huge data sets of information to tell us where we were and what we were up to. We had organizations created like Higher Heights, Black Voters Matter, Black Pack, many others. Put yours in the chat. If 2016, 2017, you're like, I need to build. I need to build intentionally for Black people. That's where I was. And I was clear that so many other people were doing that. People like Angela Peoples and Amber Phillips and Kevin Bennett, who created an absolutely prophetic campaign in 2015 called KKK or GOP. They created an online campaign that proved at the time that the GOP was shaping up to be led by white nationalists with white nationalist ideas. They were ran out of national meetings. They were told they were crazy. Shout out to the South. Shout out to the South. Thank you for saying that. KKK or GOP was one of the first times nationally that thousands of people were calling out that the GOP was shaping out to be white nationalists. And like I said, we're scoffed at. We're told that that was too extreme. 10 years later, where are we? What could we be listening to now? What could we be what could we be listening to now? Who could we be listening to now that set forward the path for the next 10 years? We had the year of the Black woman mayor. Shout out to Tashara, Rakia, Yvette, who paved the way for Black mayors in numbers we hadn't seen before. In 2016, there was one Black mayor of a metropolitan city. Now we have over a dozen. I currently live in one. All of that was because of the intentional decision that Black people, Black infrastructure was making. Shout out to Mayor Brandon Scott in the city of Baltimore, Mayor Brandon Johnson in Chicago, who have laid the blueprint over the last 4 or 5 years of public safety, interventions that support the people. I'm a huge supporter of Mamdani. Shout out to New York and all of the people who have been building power and making that possible. And he stands on the shoulder of progressive Black mayors. It's been progressive Black mayors like Brandon Scott and Brandon Johnson who have laid out blueprints for making our cities more equitable and safe for everybody. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to the others that I haven't named who have been making interventions in this way. Shout out to Georgia, who over the last 10 years revolutionized national strategy. 10 years ago, Georgia was not on the map. We talk about that a lot. But 1 in 3 Georgians who vote are Black. And the places where people are making headway are Black. Shout out to our progressive Black congresswomen who are repping for poor people, repping for Black immigrants, repping for people who have not had their voices heard. These women are popping. Shout out to Cori Bush. Shout out to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who have been on the front lines getting death threats, getting hundreds of millions of dollars dumped on them because we asked them. We asked them to be brave and to lead us in the United States Congress, and they did so, making it one of the most diverse Congress in US history. Shout out to the Working Families Party. Leaders like you and me have been making decisions to take our leadership to the next level for the people. I took this photo of Maurice Mitchell in 2018, maybe 2017, at a small house party where he shared that he was taking on the mantle of the Working Families Party. And it was so clear to me at that time that he was making a move to build out the power of working people, a Black-led political party. And for the last several years, we have watched him do that, and we've watched so many others make really important interventions. I bring all of this up because we can't just start where we are. We are not only inheriting 100 years and 50 years and 20 years, we are inheriting our own work, our own planted seeds of the last decade of making the decision to get in the streets, to host uh, independent spaces for our people, to be uncomfortable. I know that right now I am talking to people who have been left out of dominant spaces, who've been erased from important work, who feel like all the work they've done for Black people or to rep Black people has gone unnoticed. Not to me. Not to me. I see you. I see our changes everywhere. I see the way that we have been showing up and fighting. And I also see how exhausted so many of the people that we're organizing are, how unheard we still feel, and how much Black people still need. So this is an opportunity for us to move forward. In 2016, where this big decade started, nearly 60% of registered Black voters voted. That's at the top of every other racial group. Nearly 60% of our registered community show up to vote. And in 2024, just this last presidential, the nearly identical number. It was in 2020 that we saw a 3% jump in Black voter participation. I wonder what that was. Anybody have an idea? I wonder what that was. I wonder what it was that in 2016, 60% of our people came out, still huge, but we need more. And in 2020, 63% of registered Black voters showed up. And then just 4 years later, despite being back outside, despite having a Democratic president at the time, we lost 3% of our people. Where'd they go? What's up with that? What's going on? What's going on? That's for us as practitioners and leaders to answer. And for me, As I've been watching, as I've been researching, it doesn't actually seem like people know who and what wins our elections. It doesn't seem like people know the type of organizing that wins participation. And so I'm keeping that at the center of Black Campaign School, baby, because it's when we show up with our big radical ideas, it's when we show up talking about the power for the people that our people feel our power. And that's who we showing up for, baby. Yeah, I said, let's go. Let's go. What did we learn? What did we learn from the last decade of social transformation? What did we learn about being in solidarity with multiracial groups? What did we learn about being the voters that carry the electorate? Y'all still with me? You still here? I'm gonna keep going. I'm looking at the time. This is our first one. So I'm gonna ask you for some grace. I'm going way over an hour, beloveds. If you can stay with me, I really hope that you do stay locked in. I would love to keep talking to you. Obviously, this is gonna go up. So if you need to jump off, come back to it. I want to see you next week. This is just gonna keep getting better and better. And I'm gonna find as many ways to engage with you as possible. So let's keep going. We talked about the last 10 years. Now I want to talk about right now. The 2026 political landscape, federal, state, and we're going to talk about Black America. Thank you, Teddy. I really genuinely appreciate that. You might be able to feel that I'm like, I'm really excited. I'm really excited. I do feel a little nervous. I have so much to share with you all. Um, and we have so much good work to do together. So let's talk about where we at. I'm gonna show y'all some maps, okay? Okay. So let's talk about the federal government. The federal government and our legislative branch is made up of our US Senate, has 100 seats, 2 per state. And then we have a US Congress that has 435 representative seats that are made up of districts that are drawn by their state legislatures. In the United States Senate right now, there are 33 seats up for election. I'm going to show you a map in just a moment. Now, right now, the Republicans have the majority. There are 53 Republicans, there are 45 Democrats, but there are 2 independents. And those independents mostly caucus with the Democrats. So that gives us like 47, right? And so it's one of the reasons why we super hemmed up, because we are locked inside this US Senate that is unable to really pass meaningful legislation. Now, the job of our federal government is to pass the laws, but to pass the budget. And so, one of the ways that we see not just the limitations of our government, but that our government is in decline is that every year, multiple times a year, we are unable to pass the budget of our country. And that is what's led to a government shutdown. These are key indicators that things are not going well. But the US Senate is an opportunity for us to have a say in the most powerful body in the world, one of the most powerful bodies in the world. So there are 11 incumbent legislators who are not running. In order for the Democrats to get a majority, the Democrats would need to win 4 seats. Okay? 4 seats. Now, in the Republicans can only lose 2 seats. If the Republicans lose more than 2 seats, the Democrats have the majority and are going to be running the US Senate. And so this is really important. But because of the 2 party system, what the party mechanism does is it takes the seats that they need to win and it prioritizes those in the way that they spend and do outreach. In the United States Congress, I mentioned that there are 435 seats. Every single one is up in November. Every single one is up in November. But there are 58 open seats. There are 58 open seats, and that means an incumbent has decided not to run. So many of the primaries that you're seeing or that you've seen and that are coming up are seats that currently are truly hashing it out to see who can win that open seats. So let's look at this map. For Senate battleground states, we currently have 6 states that are considered battlegrounds. For House battlegrounds, we currently have 11 states that are considered battlegrounds. There are 6 states where both chambers, the US Senate and the US House, are considered battlegrounds. So, this is what that map is showing you. The blue states are states where the US Senate is most competitive. Now, again, this is based on where the National Party sees the most opportunity. Now, the green is for where there are competitive US House states or House campaigns. And so you will see those are dispersed across the country. The red are the 6 places where there's a US Senate race and there are US House races. What this map shows you is where the National Party is spending the most money. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of resources are going to be poured into these states. And what that means is that your voters, our voters, will be being communicated from national mechanisms. But we have the opportunity. Yes, Vegas, you have major things coming, okay? You have major things coming. If you are in these places, you are going to get inundated with campaign information. But if you're not, you may be left out of all of the resources that it's going to take to get you out to vote. Now, I'm going to talk about the state and local opportunities in a minute, but I want you to look at this map as you, as a voter, thinking, you and your family, thinking about what's at stake and how we win. We literally, on for the US Senate, beloveds, we need 4 of these blue states, blue or red, to turn to flip the Senate. We need 4 of them. So as you start to hear about Texas, as you're hearing about Florida, as you're hearing about North Carolina, Ohio, Michigan, the reason is because people are pooling all of their resources so that we have a chance at having democratic governance at the federal level. But it also means if you do not live in one of these places, you should be thinking about how you utilize your resources and local organizations to turn out the vote because you are going to be neglected from the national party, national mechanism. If you are in the gray here, you are literally in the gray. And electoral justice says that all voters are created equal and that all participation counts. And so you not gray to me, beloved, okay? And we need to get our people out. Okay, Crystal, you see what I'm saying? Okay, you want to keep going? Let's go. Let's go. Ooh, this is my favorite part. As organizers, we need to know this broader picture and why people are saying and talking about and prioritizing the things that they're talking about. I'm going to talk real quick about Black representation. Major, major, major shifts on this in the past decade. Major. It may still not feel like enough, but in some places, we're almost at parity of the Black population, which is not what I'm saying is necessarily the goal, but where we are 13 to 15% of the population, depending on the research. We are also about 13% of the House of Representatives. That is way bigger than it has ever been. We currently have 61 sitting House members, and there are 5 Black US Senators. When I started in politics, we had 2, and then there were 20 years that there were no Black women at all. We now have Black women, we have Black men, and we have both Republican and Democratic Black representation. Again, I'm not saying this is enough. I'm not saying that's how we measure it. But in a lot of data, like 60% of Black voters say that they will vote for a Black person no matter what their values are. So again, as practitioners, what does that mean for us? That representation is still a major part of what people want to see. And how do we celebrate the fact that we've made major gains? And one of the reasons of these recent Supreme Court decisions, I always get the little name wrong, but I want to get it right. Louisiana versus Calais, the most recent Supreme Court decision in 2025, it gave states the freedom to draw their own maps without any consideration of race. What we know is that this is going to, what we know is that this is a problem for the Congressional Black Caucus. That part of the way we draw those representative maps is by proportion, but it's by representation of the voters there to not disenfranchise people. The latest Supreme Court decision has made it so that states that are already doing this now, that has come down, Louisiana, Tennessee, Alabama, they're already starting to get real tricky with their maps so that they can bring down Black representation. This is what we have to hold. We have to hold the limitations of the system while also saying more representation is better. And in fact, it's one of the reasons why the state doesn't want us to have more power and is making the moves that it's making. We have 50 states. I like to think of it as 50 countries. I've had the opportunity to work on or manage campaigns in 43 states. Every single one, even inside of a state, those localities felt different. Every single community believes and is right that they are different. The challenges they're facing are different. And we have 295 state races across the country this November. We have 36 governors. We have 31 lieutenant governors, 30 attorney generals on the ballot, 26 secretaries of state. Now, many of these places are under full, Republican control. But they have different styles of government. So some are a Democratic governor is leading, a Republican lieutenant governor, et cetera. Each state has a different makeup. But your governor, your lieutenant governor, your secretary of state, these start to feel like your president. These folks have the opportunity to manage your entire executive branch, the budget, and the legislative priorities of your state. These are huge. And we need to point people in our communities towards these opportunities. So, state ledge, and then I'm going to keep going. Y'all doing good? Y'all doing all right? As of July 6th, a couple weeks ago, Republicans controlled 55% of all state legislatures nationally, and Democrats controlled 44%. You see that hemmed up in the binary? And I'm going to show you a map that I find just a really essential way to understand how the two-party system has really created totally disparate experiences in this country. This is the map of state legislative control in the United States. Look at all that red. Almost the entire middle of the country is governed by a Republican state legislature. So even if you have a city inside a place, even if you're in Houston, Atlanta, if you're calling in from Miami, if you're in Durham, North Carolina, if shoot, you're in Pennsylvania like me, I live in Philadelphia, where 60% of my city is Black. And yet my state legislature is consistently passing legislation that doesn't represent me because they're being controlled by Republicans. The state legislative map really gives us a sense of why so many people feel completely trapped or can feel what am I trying to say? Why people see themselves on the coast or inside trapped in a system that they cannot make broader change than right outside of their neighborhood. Um, so we have work to do here. And this is one of the places where we have not seen Black representation move. Um, Black legislators were about 9% of all state legislators over the last 10 years. And despite the Black population being between 13 and 15%, we are still at about 9% Black legislators in our state governments. Now, there are 5 states in the South. They are considered deep South states that have 30% of their legislators are Black. Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina. And the reason is because they're majority Black states. And so, in places like the South, they are able to elect Black people, but are still not able at the state level to see major Black progress. Okay, the nerdery continues. I hope you are taking notes. I hope you are taking notes. So, the last part of our picture that we are developing here, we started by talking about what so many of us have been working towards about the last 10 years. I showed you the federal maps. We're just literally not even a handful. 4 seats in the Senate, 3 seats in the Congress could totally change the face of power. It may not change our system entirely, but change some of our conditions. We talked about the states where 295 seats are up. But the best part about organizing is serving the people. And our most powerful leverage is the power of the people. And what I learned as a baby organizer was that the most important thing is that in order to serve, you needed to know who you're actually serving. Not just the people around you, not just the people who already share your opinion, but knowing who it is that you are serving. And so I want to spend a few slides talking a bit about Black people, where Black people are, where Black voters are. This was compiled by, and I'll say, this entire presentation, I had a chance to get nerdy in the census. I was on a Pew Research, Ballotpedia, Brennan Center for Research, the Advancement Project, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. These are all great resources as we put together our own. And I hope that you see us as a school that's researching, getting citations, getting good data for you so that you can take an opportunity to fill in as well with us and get this perspective. It's one of the most interesting things, and what I wanted to know when I set forth on asking myself, where are Black people now? How are Black people doing now? Is that I've always heard 13% of the population, 15% of the population, different things. And I wanted to see. So based on the census, which we know is not perfect, but based on the census, currently, Black people make up 51.6 million people and 15% of the US population. This is a 33% increase from 2000. So in 25 years, we have 33 more percent Black people in the United States. What I found so interesting about this is that, one, these still don't represent everybody. So if it's 15% in these numbers, it actually may be more. But what these numbers make up of is an internal diversity of Black people that helps us to see the full spectrum of who we're serving. One, the rise in this number is about multiracial families and many types of Black people claiming Blackness on their census report. It's the rising of racial consciousness and Black pride that people are saying, actually, yeah, you know what? In this system, I'm Black. I'm Black. Not only am I proud of that, I want you to count me as moving through this system Black. Black immigration in the United States has skyrocketed over the last year, or the last 5 to 10 years. Um, Black immigrants from Ghana, from Haiti, from Somalia, from West Africa are coming to the United States, are building communities and families here. And over the last couple of decades, we have seen how that's changed the types of needs that Black people have. And so this increase is a major part of how we should be thinking about the shifts in Black voters. And what I've done is to highlight, I created a map of where Black people live. It's not perfect, but what I wanted to do is give a sense of where we are. So we got 50 million of us, 50 million possibilities to engage in civic power and to make our voices heard with each other. And the places that have numbers are states that have over 10% Black population. Nevada, over 11%, Texas, 13%, Louisiana, 33%. Mississippi is almost 40% Black. Do you see where this is distributed in our country and how that also maps and tracks of some of the mapping of our government system? Another really interesting thing is that historians are saying that we are in the middle of a second great migration of Black people. The first great migration was right after or was during a period of Reconstruction and before and during the Harlem Renaissance or the Renaissance in the 1920s, where folks were moving north. And now the Great Migration actually has us moving south and southwest, wildly enough. So these are the fastest growing states by Black population. Again, this is based on the 2024 census or the data collected in the census. Utah has a 104% increase of Black people. Arizona, shout out to Angie, my baby who just moved to Arizona last week from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 68% increase. In Minnesota, 67. Nevada, I know y'all are here. I cannot wait for Black Camp Las Vegas. Nevada has 62% increase. And then Texas. Texas has had an explosion of Black migration over the last 2 decades. 1.3 over the last decade, 1.3 million Black people have moved to Texas. Shout out if you got a Black person that you know that moved to Texas. Someone say, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna go Houston. I'm moving to Austin. I'm moving to Dallas. Anybody moving to Texas? So why do people move? What makes people move? How is it that in 100 years ago, we were moving north for opportunity, industry, more equality. And now, 100 years later, in a rapidly diversifying Black population, that Black folks and their families are moving south and southwest. We know that the reason that all people move, all human beings move, is because of housing, because of food, and because economic opportunity, and because of the environment. And it's some of the same reasons that our people are moving. They can no longer afford the housing in the cities that they live. The food is going bad. They want to be in wider open spaces. They want more space and land and economic opportunity. We know that there's major industries that are starting to grow in these places where there are less regulations. Black folks are moving for economic opportunity. And over the last 15 years, we've also seen environmental migration. People are moving because of hurricanes, because of flood, because of fires, because they can no longer exist in the places that we're living, which is the reason why people move all around the world. And it's the reason why people move to the United States. So, what does it mean that Black people are having this shared experience in this moment? And what does it mean that one, we need to register people at their new addresses? And that people's geographic connections to their places and power is shifting. How much of an opportunity is this for us to build power and to see ourselves nationally? There are 34 million registered voters, which means there are about 15 million unregistered. Many of those may be disenfranchised and unable to vote. But we are leaving still so many people on the table. But we do have the biggest block of racial groups in this country. 14% of all registered voters are Black. That's our population. So, of this country, and then of the people who vote, we are at parity. Now, we want more than 60% of our people voting, but in a national paradigm, we are holding it down. And nearly 60% of those people, they live in southern states. I showed you the graph of a Black voter turnout falling. What's that about? What does this all mean about our civic power? What does it mean that our literacy rate is going down? That 20% of Black people have named that they are in poor and worsening health. We have folks who are graduating at higher levels, and we have HBCUs that are churning out Black doctors, Black lawyers, Black architects. My research shows that HBCUs produce 50% of professional degrees, such as medical degrees, law degrees, completely overperforming other colleges. While our children are experiencing more poverty than other racial groups, and where our wealth gap is growing exponentially. So, what is the state of Black America? What does all this mean? How do we leverage this? Or maybe not leverage isn't the right word. How do we think about this information? Integrate it into what we want for everybody and what we want people to do. We have huge opportunities ahead of us. Sometimes, I'm going to say here, sometimes it may not feel like that. I will say over the last several years of building and rebuilding and really trying to get back to you all, trying to get back to this conversation, I have felt so depleted in my hope reservoir. um, I have even at times felt embarrassed to be an electoral person. I'm like, people see right through me. And as I've gotten really rooted in my community and made the decision to show up for my neighbors in an intentional way, in a way I couldn't do when I was a campaign manager, um, I started to think about how maybe managing campaigns, working in elections, maybe there was actually something more powerful that I could do. Over the last several years, I've been like, maybe being a barista and organizing people from across the cafe counter, maybe being a social worker would be more powerful than organizing people towards elections. And I don't say that to like be dramatic, although I can be dramatic. But I say that to say for me, it's always been a calling. It's always been a calling to represent my family, to show up, to work for change, to make things better. And then you start to run up against everything that is actually holding us back. You run up against the Electoral College. You run up against voter suppression. You run up against all the gerrymandering and the redistricting. And you're like, actually, maybe my neighbor is right. And my voice doesn't matter. My vote doesn't count. Sometimes when you do see too much and know too much, the system does feel bigger than you could ever tackle. But no, fuck that. There are millions and millions and millions of us that are looking for hope, for an opportunity to believe that the people do have the most power. That, yeah, there are like thousands of people with fancy titles. There are millions and millions and millions of people who get to shape this government and demand that the system that we need. And so our job and our opportunity is to remind everybody what it is that we're actually fighting for. Our opportunity is to tell the truth and to inspire. And what brought me back to this desk, what got me back here, was seeing in myself that no matter my position, I was going to show up, fighting for the information so that I could vote, telling my neighbors every time I saw them, oh, did you know that this is our voting location? Did you know what to do? Showing up in my community garden, showing up at my farmer's market, tutoring the kids in my neighborhood, debating, engaging with my brothers, being with my 95-year-old godmother, making sure that she can navigate our healthcare system, our changing economic system. I'm looking at myself like, oh, so I can create change anywhere I am. I can make a difference in on my front porch. Wow. And as I sat on my front porch, dismayed, worried, shout out to the truth tellers. Shout out to all of us who were like, I keep telling the truth, but people don't seem to hear me. I was thinking about you as I was sitting on my porch. I was thinking about you as I was praying for myself to feel like I could make a difference again, that my work mattered, that I could have a contribution of engaging people in their potential aspirational democracy. And it was thinking about you and the thousands of us who believe we can make a difference where we are, that I could recommit to the idea that we could weave a web that could change the lives of millions of people. It was thinking about Black people, the love, the deep honoring that I feel that's important for Black people in this moment. It's the reminder of the importance of Black history. It's the lessons from all of our Black leaders that have recommitted me to the idea that, of course, the people have power. Of course, we have an opportunity to change the game. We always have. We always will. And it is our job, it's our assignment to remind the people around us of that power and the possibility when we all come together. And so these are our electoral opportunities. Four seats for Democratic control of the US Senate. The US Senate may not be your end all be all, but control could reduce harm for a lot of people. Control could potentially get us to a place where we could authorize war and the killing of children and the use of our tax dollars to go for things that we don't want it to. In the United States House, we need 3 seats. Can you imagine that? We are so close that in the Congress that authorizes the budget of this country, again, the two-party system is not my North Star, but civic participation that reduces harm is. We have over 200 state opportunities. Remind our people they're voting for their mayor. They're voting for people who are going to affect their everyday lives. We have thousands of local leaders on the ballot. And if that's you, thank you. Come back next week. We're going to talk about running for office. We have the power in November to assess our messaging and our outreach tactics. We already see how the Dems have co opted progressive and Black movement messaging, affordability, raising the wages, housing protections, all of that is stuff that the Black left, that Black progressives offered, that Black mayors offered. The current national strategy of the Democratic Party is rooted in the last 10 years of movement work. So we have the opportunity to seize this moment for our messaging. We have the opportunity to encourage people. And we have the opportunity to reduce harm and build energy. There is nothing silly, romantic, or shameful about asking people to use the power in their hands to move the ball forward for our people and reduce harm. And talking about it in that way does not mean that it is any less exciting or important. Civic participation, Katie. Civic participation is our North Star. Our North Star is the power of the people, is looking around and seeing shoulder to shoulder that our neighbors are represented in their government. That's our North Star. And we go first as leaders in this space. As people raising our hands to make a difference, we take it on the chin that some people are not going to believe us, but we go first. We make the case. We're willing to debate and be humble enough to give people the information they need to make these choices. We have 100 days, beloved. We have 100 days. 2 years ago, Kamala Harris was handed the baton 107 days before the election. It's right around this time that people started to pivot and be adaptable towards the 2024 election. If you're interested in talking about that, I'm going to spend a lot of time on dissecting the 2024 election in Black Campaign School. So keep coming back. But 100 days, we got it. There's so much we can do. We have so many planted seeds blooming. I know DC is in the building. There are a lot of people I could shout out, and I genuinely really want to. I want to shout out Angie Nixon in Florida. I want to shout out. In fact, if I start to shouting them out, I'm gonna get in trouble. But if you got someone to shout out, put them in the chat. If you have someone to shout out that you want me to in Black Campaign School, being bold, someone who still has an election, someone, etc., you let me know. But right now, I want to shout out City Councilor Janice George. And I want to tell you about the power of a decade. And then I'm going to bring us home. I know y'all probably, hopefully you eating, somebody got some spaghetti, maybe you drinking some wine. I hope that this power 90 minutes has reminded you of what we can do together. It was 2019 in Washington, D.C. We are in the basement of the teachers union in a windowless conference room. There are over 300 candidates for elected office, all Black from all over the country. And on the very last day of Black Campaign School, I lined all of them up and we created this circle. And each one by one, started to say what they were running for and where. So we heard from people from all over. And there was this one moment at the very end of this circle where 10, literally about 10 candidates, all lined up, were running for the same seat. So one after another, someone would stand forward and say, "My name is, I'm running for DC City Council Ward 4." Step right up the next one. "My name is, I'm running for DC City Council Ward 4." My name is, by the fourth and the fifth one, we're all cracking up. And we also are like holding our breath a little bit. We're like, wow, they're all running against each other. What does it all mean? Is this okay? Is this good? Now they're looking at each other. They're happy to be with each other. We've had an incredible Black campaign school. And the very last person in this set of 10 was the only woman and the shortest person in the lineup. And she came forward and said, "My name is Janice George, and I'm running for City Council Ward 4." And everyone erupted. We cracked up because she was the last of 10 running for the same seat. And I remember her winning that seat and thinking about that moment where she stood forward, claiming her space amongst all the guys, claiming her space in a sea of 10 people running. I was proud of everybody who was running. It takes so much courage to run for office. But seeing Janice show up in that moment was so powerful. And when she won, that image of her never left my mind. And in this last DC primary, she won to become DC's next mayor. And in November, we have the opportunity, DC has the opportunity to elect a progressive working people's champion. And so Black Campaign School, we're not doing big endorsements. We're a school right now, okay? We are a school. And we want you to come here and to have the opportunity to learn about our industry and this mastery. But a people's champion knows a people's champion. And there are some of you right now who are planting the seeds of the next 10 years, who are sowing the seeds of your leadership so that you can take on the biggest work of your career. And that's how I see Janice in this moment, having put every single block together to show up at a time when we need her the most. I've lived in all of these different places, and the time that I felt the most disenfranchised was when I lived in DC. There are 4 million people who live in DC that currently do not have a US governor. They don't have Senate voting representation or a voting member of the US Congress. And so many members of the US Senate use DC to assert national control over our nation's capital, to use DC voters as like a petri dish of their worst policies. Having a mayor who can champion those people at the highest level of representation, that's electoral justice. That is the opportunity that we have to bring our visions together through representation and care and long-term change for the people. So shout out to everybody making change right now. We have huge assignments. Huge assignments. Our assignment is to lead. It takes a lot to wear your heart on your sleeve. Then we need you to. We need you to engage people. We want you to prepare with intention. We want you to invite and inform. We want you to know where you are and where you're trying to go. And please tell the people that you're serving, we're trying to win this. We're trying to create change in this way. By November 3rd, we're going to know this information. We're going to be able to measure this. We're trying to win XYZ. And we got to stick together. We have to stick together. We have to stick together as people, as neighbors who are navigating this system together. We have to stick together as organizations and leaders. And we have to be willing in this broader system, where we feel so outnumbered, we have to be willing to see each other fighting, even when we can't stand next to each other. So, with that, I bring us to our close of our very first class of Black Campaign School 2026. I hope that you learned something, took away something. If you did, let me know. Give me a little love in the chat if you learned something. I would love to hear your questions, anything else. I know I went over time, so if you got to run, I totally understand. I hope you will come, play this back, take it slow, journal your thoughts. If there's anything I really missed, go ahead, give me a shout out. I want to keep adding. I hear you say you're not ready to leave. Me neither, baby. Me neither. This was so fun. It's wonderful to prepare for y'all. It's awesome to think about you all making change. And so just feel me at your back. Feel me continuing to innovate this space so that we have a place to talk about Black people, Black voters, Black power. And come see me next week, okay? 7 p.m. I'm going to be right here at this desk. We're going to talk about running for office. The next week, Black voters, and we're going to get into some money, power, and respect. I can't wait to see you, Allie. Thank you so much for being here. I hope I'm getting people's names right. If not, just know it's all love. Um, Please be in touch with me. I'm on all the social media as Black Camp Bird. I want to be connected to you. Follow us at Black Campaign School on Instagram, and I'll be writing and sharing our lessons here on Substack. So I want to talk to you everywhere you are. Lots of love. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to check out the chat. I'm going to stay here for a moment. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the opportunity to be your teacher. And thank you for joining us here at Black Campaign School. We are just getting started. Mwah. Have such a good night. Have such a good week. I'll see you all so soon. Let's keep it on there so I can keep reading some of the comments too. I want to shout out to my team, Renee and Blay. I want to shout out to Steve Parget. Thank you guys for getting me to this place. Thank you so much. Thank you to every candidate I ever worked with. Thank you to the Movement for Black Lives. Thank you to my best friends. So much love. Mwah, LA, what's up? We had LA, we had New Orleans, we had Phoenix. I saw y'all. I see you, Columbus, Ohio. Thank you all. Wow, so cool. All right. Oh, bye. Okay.